Hello and welcome. I'm Sandra Siepak, and this is Our Ventura TV. On today's show, we're welcoming Superintendent of Ventura Unified School District, David Creswell. Thank you so much for joining us, David.
Sandra, it's a pleasure.
Great. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that you're doing within the school district. Here is your first year as superintendent, which has been a great year. Lots of challenges, lots of new things happening, and we want to hear from you about some of those things. I know that the culture of the district certainly provides leadership and good communication, and I want to know from your standpoint if you feel that that's in line with what you're doing.
Absolutely. This community, it struck my wife and I very, very early on.
Okay.
There's a very nice kind of laid-back attitude.
Yes, there
in
is.
the city.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
At the same time, it's one that takes care of business, and so I found that in the school district. One of my initial challenges, probably my first week on the job, is to build trust and build relationships and make sure that I have the team of administrators and leaders that I interact with together.
Yes.
And that was so easy here. I've been in a few different districts over 28 years, and there's different challenges, but that was not a challenge here. It's a very open group. Not only the leaders, the teachers, the support staff, all of the stakeholders in the organization are very open, very easy. They're
very welcoming.
Very welcoming. Very, very welcoming. Yeah, we felt a part of this community almost immediately.
That's nice.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah, and when you gather that up and you put all that together to do the job that you're here to do, that makes it a whole lot easier coming into a position such as yours. Overseeing 27 schools in the district here is quite a challenge.
Yeah. Everything that we do is based on trust.
Yes.
You have to have trust, you have to have integrity, you have to have character.
Yes.
And people need to see you modeling and need to see you focused on what the goals are and moving towards it.
Okay.
And
are there some changes you'd like to see in that culture or the communication process?
Yeah, it's been interesting. So again, my first year has really been one of listening and learning and trying to educate myself about what's in place.
Okay.
And as I travel around school to school and community organizations and those types of things, what I see are pockets of amazing things going on from side to side, programs, people, things that are in place. And so what strikes you immediately is, how do we take those pockets of just unbelievable greatness and make them systemic and make it so everyone's doing that? And so that's one of the challenges. It's almost going from good to great is the goal. And this district, I don't know that this community knows the amazing things that are going on at our sites in all different areas. And it's been exciting for me to learn about those and educate myself. And
do you have a good rapport with parents and teachers alike?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the goal.
Yeah.
You know, the goal is to build those relationships, build the trust. And I got to tell you, communication is something I'm constantly second guessing myself on. Am I doing too much? Am I doing not enough? Is it timely? That's just so critical.
Do you hear from a lot of kids too?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
That's good. That's a good thing.
One of the best things that I can do is be out on school sites.
Oh, that's great.
And being a teacher and a principal for quite a few decades, a couple of decades, that's where I get my energy and that's where I get my feedback. And the students in this community are very open to walking up and
so they're not afraid to go up to you and say,
not at all.
Hey, we got to do this, or we should do this, or that's good to hear that kids are that vocal about approaching you.
And I think as a superintendent, I work hard to make myself approachable.
Good.
So that it's nothing to sit down at a lunch table with a bunch of second graders and talk about the food or what's going on in class.
That's good.
Same at the high schools.
Well, let's get to one really important issue, which is spending. Budget is always a concern for education. I know parents are very concerned about budgeting. The school district is concerned about budgeting. Let's talk about the spending of the Ventura Unified School District. Where are we with it? Are we in a good place? Can we make improvements? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, so that's a huge topic.
It
so
is.
Let me start globally.
Okay.
Public schools are interesting in that we don't generate revenue.
Okay.
The state gives us a fixed amount of money, depending on how many students we have.
Okay.
And then we're in charge of all the expenses.
Okay.
The state also continues to give us assignments and compliance issues that we have to do that cost money, but there's no additional revenue that comes in. So that's tough. Our district, like most others, 80, 85%, even 90% of our budget is on personnel. And so the amount of discretionary money that we have after those bills are paid is actually very little after utilities and all the other types of things that we have to do. So budgets in the state and in Ventura have always been a challenge. There's a lot of things that we want to do with regard to safety and social justice and counseling and psychology, all great things that our community expects that are not funded.
I know, it's
So we have to find that money somewhere
Right.
or carve it out of an existing program or those types of things. So
Right.
there's quite an art to that.
And then you've got, teachers and staff that certainly want to be paid a good salary, and they do feel that they deserve it, which they do. And I know it's very tough sometimes trying to give them that money. It's always a challenge.
Well, and let me add to that. That's the goal, my goal, and the board's goal as well.
Oh, good.
I would like the employees of the Ventura Unified School District to be paid as well, if not better, than any surrounding district.
Great.
How we go about doing that, that's the challenge.
It is.
But we're an attractive place geographically.
Yes.
People want to come to Ventura, but we'd also like to reward people for their hard work.
Yes.
And I would love to have the employees of Ventura Unified be the highest paid educational professionals around. And so
Right.
that's our goal. Right now we're not. And so that's one of the challenges.
And it is not something that you can just say, well, I can give you all a raise this year. It has to come from somewhere. So that is, like you said, the biggest challenge.
Yeah, and I think very much like, your household at home,
Sure.
expenses increase, insurance goes up, utilities go up, those types of things. So it is incredibly challenging.
Yes.
I think, again, back to a global level, unfortunately, the state of California funds education at one of the lowest levels of any state in the U.S.
Okay.
We're typically in the bottom 5 of the money that we give as a state towards education.
And our expenses here in California are some of the highest.
Absolutely.
So that doesn't make it easy for teachers to come here and have a great life.
One
And a
of
career.
Absolutely. And one of the challenges that I hear from this community is they love Ventura.
Oh, yeah.
And their kids grow up here, and yet quite a few of them can't come back and afford houses and get
Yes.
jobs that enable them to move back to Ventura and live. And that's a
Okay.
huge challenge.
Yeah. Another certainly important issue that Ventura Unified, as well as many schools across the country, deal with are the subject of bullying. It's a consistent issue that seems to cross over many different levels of schools, whether it be elementary, junior high, high school. It seems to know no boundaries.
Yeah.
I want to talk about bullying and
Absolutely.
how you feel about it, how you're doing something about it, if you've encountered it here at Ventura Unified, and what parents come to you with. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So unfortunately, bullying in all schools is
Yes.
historic.
It is.
I think that we have some unique changes in this day and age, especially with social media, with the availability of kids to access that and use that is
Yes.
kind of a new frontier for us that we're
Okay.
constantly doing training and trying to stay ahead of. Bullying has 2 sides to it, and we typically talk about one side, so let me explain that. We have amazing anti-bullying curriculum programs in our schools.
Okay.
There's also the social emotional help with regard to our teachers and our support staff, our counselors, our school psychologists, to address kids that are at risk or kids that are in need. And then we have kind of, I'll say, the punitive side of
Okay.
when kids are bullying, we need to be very fair but very consistent in kind of the consequences of doing that. So those are the variables we can control. The other half of this is is a little bit tough to talk about, a little bit tough to explain, but it's far more about the way that we raise kids.
Okay.
We need to raise kids that are resilient. We need to raise kids that are able to have the judgment and the skills to deal with that.
And that's a good point, because I don't know if we have enough of that.
Absolutely.
And that's something that parents can learn from as well.
Yeah, it's something we address in schools and,
Right.
and at home, is how do you give someone the benefit of the doubt and say, apparently they're having a bad day,
Yes.
and they seem to be randomly directing at me. I can let that roll off of my back, and I can be bigger than that, and I can handle that,
Right.
or I can go for help, or I have a toolbox of things that I can use to get through this. That's as important too.
Yeah. And I think that's good for parents to know that bullying is not something the school district is going to put up with. The tolerance policy for that is very high. And I think we can all learn a lot about bullying. And I really feel it does trickle down to staff, parents, and kids learning more about that.
And actually, if I could, one of my goals that I've realized this first year is, again, we have some school sites that are
Okay.
doing amazing things in this area.
Good.
And so what do we need to do to have that systemic, to have that go across all of our sites? So
That's
we've
good
got
to
a
know.
steering committee right now that's looking at what are the programs we can adopt K-12 across our district.
Right.
So even though individual schools may have different programs, what can we unify, and
Okay.
what can we have? And we think there's a tremendous amount of strength and hope in that.
There's a good future for that then. Good.
Yes.
That's good to know. Let's talk about when students finish school, when they graduate. When they graduate from elementary school, when they graduate from junior high, when they graduate from high school. What do the kids need to know, especially in high school level, before they go out into the world and do all the things that they want to do? What are some of the things that they should know?
That's a great question, and that's an answer that's evolving and changing.
Okay.
Not too many decades ago, schools were simply responsible for academics, period.
Right. That's right.
Now we're responsible for nutrition and transportation, for social skills, for personal skills, for emotions,
Right.
for academics as well. So we have our hands full.
Yes.
And so what we're hoping for is that we're matriculating and promoting and graduating students that have good judgment, that have good character, that are resilient, that are able to make tough decisions,
Yes.
that are able to communicate, and have kind of the relational and people skills that they need to be successful, whether they go into a
Right.
career, whether they go to college or university, no matter where life takes them.
Sure.
That they have those basic skills and that basic foundation. And it's a great goal because it's exactly what every parent wants.
Absolutely,
So to work
yes.
together on that
Yeah.
is really very powerful and very encouraging and just fun to be part of.
That's
It really
great.
is.
And I think it's great when you send a child out into the world knowing that they have that in their background now to go out and do some great things. And it's not just academics. Like you said, there's a lot more to it now that they will have to learn.
Yeah, it's interesting that research shows that most people lose their jobs. 70% of the people lose their jobs because of people skills,
Okay.
because of relationship skills. It's not necessarily that
So
they
it's good to
lack
build
the,
on that.
yeah, the technical skills, but that they can work with others.
Okay. What would you say to parents out there who have a child at Ventura Unified School District? Are there any closing thoughts that you might have for them?
Well, first of all, I appreciate your patience and your trust.
Okay.
It's a good system. We
It
have
is.
a lot of good people in place that care deeply for your kids, for their
Okay.
safety, for their health, for
Good.
their academics. And so you need to give them the benefit of the doubt. There's
great.
people doing good things. And secondly, work with us. You know, we have the same goals that you have at home.
Right.
And so to have resilient kids, healthy kids, kids that are lifelong learners and interested in kind of life and taking on
Sure.
what's next is important to all of us.
And the communication is always open with you, and that's one of the best things I think that you bring to the district. So
Thank
I'm
you.
very, very glad to see that.
Thank you.
Again, thank you, Superintendent David Creswell, for joining us today on Our Ventura TV.
It's a
I appreciate
pleasure.
your time
Glad-
and your knowledge about so many great things that we're covering today. And thank all of you for joining us on Our Ventura TV. I'm Sandra Siepak. I look forward to joining you next time. Bye, everyone.